And the best part is once we do release a feature, we reach back out to the customers who requested that to beta test it. And we saw that a lot of customers loved that we completed this feedback loop because we heard them, we built it, and then we wanted their feedback to make sure it best served their needs. Yeah, I love that part about my job. Telling the customers that, hey, we built it. It's yours now.
Yeah, I absolutely love that too. Like being able to close that cycle is the most fulfilling thing about this, right? And I feel like that's where people miss the opportunity of, going back and talking to customers and saying, hey, that thing you asked like a week ago or 3 hours ago, now that's done and here it is. Hey everyone, welcome to another Founder Q&A video. This time we're going to talk about support, more specifically how we are supporting 100,000 developers with only one support engineer. And I brought Krithika here with me, who is doing that amazing job to answer all of your questions about how we do that. Thank you so much, Krithika, for coming here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. And I know a lot of people wanted to hear more about how we operate internally. I'm really excited to give everyone an inside look.
Nice. So the first question comes from LinkedIn and is, what tools and workflows do you use to ensure timely and effective support?
Nice. So as a team, we use Plane and Retool, and Plane is our customer ticketing system. And the cool thing about Plane is that we've created custom ways to triage all of the tickets programmatically based on various factors that we've determined. So severity, which is actually determined by our customers, so we're prioritizing their needs first, tier level, and the type of issue. Plane has a really nice AI tagging system which detects what kind of issues in our product the customer is having trouble with, and I use that to create a priority list internally. We also use Retool, which helps me safely make changes that users request without continuously needing to request write access into our database. And I wanted to give a huge shout out to Johnny for always being an open ear to any ideas I have. So if there's anything I need that can make my life a lot easier with customer requests, I just send it over to him and we come up together with some internal workflows and making it reality. Now, personally, I love using to-do apps and productivity apps. So I use a combination of TickTick, which is a to-do app where I can organize tasks. And then I also recently discovered Samsana, which is a great way to integrate all of those tasks into my calendar. So I use those for projects, content planning, and then also time blocks for any bugs or feature requests that I want to work on.
What I love about Plane, which I've never seen that before, is the ability to customize the UI, right? And we have these shortcuts within Plane where as you're like reading a ticket, as you're trying to troubleshoot, you can go and like create buttons within the tool. So we can go to Retool, we can see if that's a paid customer or a free tier customer, what is their quota, and more details about that customer. That's super nice, right? And yeah, I don't know, like there's so much that we build internally in terms of internal apps with Retool that I don't know if we would be able to support that many customers without it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Retool is amazing for that. And another thing is security, right? We want to make sure that everyone in the team has access to changing specific data sets without it being a vulnerability. So love that we use that. I also wanted to touch on some workflows. So because we work all across different time zones, what I personally do is do my deep work in the morning. And that's just the most overlap with our team in the America time zones, Brazil, and it also lets me escalate any issues to our engineering team. And my role at Resend is to advocate for the customer. So having the deep work in the morning lets me really prioritize any issues in our end cycle that need to be surfaced immediately.
That's great.
All right, Zeno. Next one is by Devin from X. Do you have shared Slack channels with customers?
Yes, we have a ton of them. In fact, just before recording this, I went to our Slack organization just to see how many exactly do we have. And we have 428 shared Slack channels. And this is a way for us to support customers in a timely manner. We know that back and forth with email sometimes can be tricky, and chat is just a natural place where you can bounce ideas, share screenshots, and get things done quickly. So we love Slack. It's great. It's definitely tricky to manage conversations. Sometimes it can be hard to make sure we're following up with every single one of them on Slack. But it's a great way to serve customers. And we think, like, in terms of how we can better equip customers, just like being where they are. And if they're on Slack, we should be there too, helping them whatever they feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, I love that Plain integrates with Slack. So any Slack message that we receive from our customer channels, I see it in Plain, but there's also visibility across all of our team. So the great thing is anyone in the team can jump on, and I'm in the loop because it's all synchronized very effectively. And yeah, we just want to replicate their current workflow so that they're not going out of their way to get help or ask us for questions. And it's also great because we form personal connections with all of our customers, and we get to learn more about their products and what they're working on and how we can help make their life easier with Resend.
Yeah, for sure. The next question is from Cronarch on X, and he asks, how do you balance serving your customers' requests and learning from them?
This is a really great question. So my first priority is always helping the customer, advocating for the customer, and making sure that their needs are met in the best way we can. So we tell our customers that we get back to them in 48 hours, but very rarely do we respond back later than the business day. So once I'm able to help them out, I use that experience to provide feedback back to the team. So this is in the form of feature requests, documentation, monitoring, and the mindset I like to have is a continuous learning mindset. And that's just treating each customer interaction as an opportunity to learn something new. So whether it's about the product or processes, that way we can have effective communication with our customers. My favorite thing that we do with our customers is involving them from start to finish. So if it's a feature that a customer is interested in, we will interview them and see what their use cases are. For example, learning about templates and how customers would possibly use templates, or advanced use cases for their marketing and broadcasting tools. And the best part is once we do release a feature, we reach back out to the customers who requested that to beta test it. And we saw that a lot of customers loved that we completed this feedback loop because we heard them, we built it, and then we wanted their feedback to make sure it best served their needs. Yeah, I love that part about my job. Telling the customers that, hey, we built it. It's yours now.
Yeah, I absolutely love that too. Like, being able to close that cycle is the most fulfilling thing about this, right? And I feel like that's where people miss the opportunity of, going back and talking to customers and saying, hey, that thing you asked like a week ago or 3 hours ago, now that's done, and here it is. And you touched on something super interesting about like the 48 hours expectation that we set with customers, right? Like, hey, once you send a question, we give you that auto message. And that's super interesting because, like, when you think about, when you go to Disneyland, for example, right? You're going to a park, you're spending 8 hours there, and maybe from those 8 hours, 6 hours of those are like just sitting in lines and waiting to get on the rides. But somehow, after spending all that time, we're still like super happy that we went to Disneyland. We have such a great time and we want to come back. And what they do really well is that they set the expectation, right? Like, hey, this ride is going to take 2 hours for you to get in. Do you want to get in? Yeah. You want to do it? Okay, let's do it. So they're setting the expectations from the get-go. And that's what we do with tickets too. Like, hey, if you send a message at Friday, 8 p.m., we might not get to you until Monday. But what we try to do is always respond as fast as possible. And yeah, setting expectations is something that is super important when talking about support.
Yeah, absolutely. If I knew I had to wait 2 hours, then I got in 30 minutes, I'm a happy person. Next last one for you, Zeno, is how do you prioritize new features based on customer feedback and manage the challenge of pushing back on their requests when necessary? This one is from Cam from X.
Yeah, it's so difficult because you want to be able to help everybody and you want to be able to, meet everybody's expectations. But sometimes, those expectations doesn't really align with your roadmap or with the things that you're planning. And there's so much that we can do with such a small team, right? So I would say it's less about pushing back. It's more about like just making sure that we are registering whatever feature requests we get. And the way we do that is that we can link tickets to linear tickets as well. So the support tickets are linked on linear, and then we can sort by what are the things that users requested the most. And it's very easy for us, like we have a linear view where we just see, okay, this thing was requested like 3 times more than the second thing. So there's definitely something there. So we definitely look into this angle of like what is the most recurring thing and then try to address that. Of course, there's the severity and the impact on customers, and there are many different variables that come into play. But how many customers are affected is definitely one that we take a lot of attention to.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really great answer. And I wouldn't say we necessarily push back like you were mentioning, but we do like to set the expectations as clear as possible. And sometimes that means it's having those tough answers where you're saying, we aren't prioritizing this right now, but I am open to seeing how we can make it easier, maybe find a workaround or a quick fix to get to the solution whatever the customer is looking for.
For sure. The next question is from João Melo on X, and he asks, what strategies are in place to handle peak times when user requests might spike? And this is interesting because sometimes we have launch weeks, and just like the volume that we get over the weekend is already pretty heavy. So yeah, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, this is a tough one too because it can almost be unpredictable. But I will say that there are patterns that I notice. So, one thing I do is look at our insights to predict spikes or days where there might be heavy volume. And again, Plane does a really great job of gathering data points and metrics so that we can anticipate those trends in spikes of volume. Another thing to me is if there is a spike that is out of the blue, that tells me that there's something that we need to fix. There's a core issue that we need to take care of. And by addressing the issue head on, it helps to avoid these spikes from occurring in the future. One thing that I also make sure that I do is triage and prioritize tickets based on who's blocked and whose business is impacted with whatever scenario they're experiencing, especially since we know that a lot of users rely on Resend for their internal infrastructure and their processes. So I want to make sure that anyone who reports that they're blocked is taken care of with a timely manner, because personally, feedback requests can wait for a response for a day within 24 hours, and I'd love to take care of whoever is having a hot issue. I would say the thing that keeps our support sustainable for having one individual on hand is prioritizing self-service resources. So this means prioritizing documentation, content like the tooltips that we give in X posts, LinkedIn posts, and also reviewing AI insights from our chatbot. So this way I can see what are people commonly asking for and how can we create content or tools as a team to avoid them from having this question again. And the motto or goal I try to live by when working in customer engineering specifically is, if one person's having this issue, how can I prevent the next person from having the same issue? So love the idea of self-service resources and really investing time into all of these assets that we can provide customers.
Yeah, the way we think about support is almost like a try-catch block, right? And the try block is like documentation, knowledge base, like every single resource that the users can help themselves with. But if they're unable to do that, then support is that catch block where they can talk to a human and get help with. So Yeah, it's exactly like that. Investing there is super important.
All right, next question is how big and complete is your knowledge base? How much time does a knowledge base save? And this is from Nicolau from X.
Yeah, I feel like we have maybe like 20 or 30-ish articles on our knowledge base right now. And they are super helpful. I wouldn't say our knowledge base is the most complete in the world, but one strategy that I would recommend folks to do is something that we have done early on, where when we didn't have nothing there, you have this chicken and egg problem, right? Because you have all these tickets that are being asked multiple times about, and you don't have time to work on the knowledge base. So then more tickets come up, and now you're in this weird situation, right? So what we've done early on was like this policy of we only respond to a ticket once we have a knowledge base article. And that's easier said than done, because what happens is that you go to that ticket, and then now you have to stop, write it down. But the beauty is that once you do that, now you can respond with this link. So it might take like maybe an hour more for you to reply, but now you have that link that you can send multiple times to other users, and they can search for that too. One tool that we forgot to mention that plays a big part in our support is called InKeep. So both in our docs and within our product, folks can ask questions to AI. And this AI is trained on both our docs, knowledge base, and the website. So the more we improve our knowledge base, the better the AI gets, and the better answers they can have by themselves without talking to a human. So super important, and it definitely saves a huge amount of time.
Yeah, I love InKeep because I can go into those insights and take some block time and see what people are asking for and try my best to come up with a way to find a solution for them without them needing to ask us. So that kind of powers our knowledge base articles. And yeah, really love that.
Cool. Last question for you, Krithika. How do you efficiently identify and separate bugs and issues from troubleshooting or how-to tickets to make sure they're surfaced in a timely manner?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, the first thing that I prioritize is making sure I'm as much of a product expert as I can be. And this means that I need to make sure I stay in the loop with new changes made. And I love that we have a team culture of open communication. So, all of our Slack channels are open. We have a daily sync every day where our engineering team, operations team, everyone can come together and update on what they're currently working on, which allows me to feel more empowered to learn more and more about Resend and be more familiar with it. So that's the first step. The second one is I always make sure that I reproduce issues that customers flag. And the way I optimize this is by having test accounts for any combination of tiers and plans, because it's possible that an issue can come up with a very specific circumstance, but maybe it's not showing up for everyone else. So I like to make sure I can empathize with the customer by really experiencing that issue myself. And oftentimes this helps me power the request to our internal team even higher and say, hey, we really need to get this issue taken care of for our customers, especially since I'm able to feel the customer pain myself. So to me, a commonly occurring issue means two things. One is it'll be the next knowledge base article, and two is it's really important to fix this in the product directly. So being able to reproduce issues helps me a lot with that. And the last thing that really helps me stay efficient is I have support from the entire team. We're a small team of 6, but our knowledge within each team member is quite expansive and mighty, and the internal SLAs that we have isn't just something that I'm held to, but our entire team lives by this. So with the mindset that the customer is always first, we make sure that all hands are on deck if needed, and I've never felt hesitant to ask any of my teammates to hop into plane and take some time out of their day and help out with any tickets. So the combination of making sure I'm enabled as much as possible with Resend, but having an amazing team to support me has been the easiest way to tackle all 100,000 of our users.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, Krithika. I feel like I've learned even more from you today, and yeah, this was awesome.
Nice. This is good.